The Akha spindle has a different take on how spinning is done. In fact, the Akha people have a different take on how spinning is done because they spin while they walk around. So this spindle is a support spindle. It's also a suspended spindle. We'll see it's a two-step technique. They typically bury the wood for the whirl so that it can get denser from being buried for a few years. And the shafts are typically made out of bamboo. This is an Akha spindle actually from Thailand. However, it's a little bit old and starting to come apart a little bit, so we won't use this one. Now, you can start your Akha spindle similar to how Taklis are started, but it's a little challenging. So what I'll usually do is take some singles that was the end of a last spindle that I didn't ply and wind it around really tightly. A little tricky to get it tight. Once you've wound it tight, it's not going to go anywhere. And then barber pole up to the tip and then break it off. And you might think, how is that going to join? But cotton is actually a very joiny fiber, and I can join it by laying my thread on top of my fiber and starting my twirl. Okay. And to twirl the Akha spindle, what we do is we hold it in our fingers and we twirl it with our first finger and thumb and catch it with the other fingers. And I'm going to keep twirling it here until I feel the fiber catch the twist right there. And that caught a little bit more fiber than I wanted, so I'll draft it a little. And now I can draft and twirl at the same time. And I want to get past that join. And you see it's got a little bit of a thick spot, just like we saw with our Taklis. So I'll have to work that out as well. Get the thick spot to come out. Go. And I want to make sure I'm just drafting thick spots, not thin ones, so I'll keep adding some twist. There we go. And that last thick spot right down there is a little too close. So catch it, there we go. Need to have enough of it be above the notch to draft it out. Now, cotton takes a lot of twist to hold together, and the Akha people do traditionally ply their fibers, so they do want a lot of twist in this single. So to finish it off, once they have yarn in the length, they'll take the spindle and roll it against their thigh to add the finishing twist. Okay? And once they have that on, they'll wind it on above the whirl of the spindle. And give a little tug before you start, making the next length, twirling it in your hand as you draft. Pinching out the thick spots while you twirl. This is a bit of a balancing act, figuring out how to have enough twist for the thin spots to be yarn, while you can still draft out the thick spots. And then once you have it as just barely yarn, give it that thigh roll to finish it off and wind it on. So what the Akha people will do is they'll walk around all day, turning cotton punies into lengths of yarn, and then winding the yarn into tight little balls and putting them in the canister they got the puni out of, typically hooked onto their waist. And then they'll ply two of the balls together. Okay, so we pull out our thick spots to make it all the same. Thigh roll to finish it, and wind it on. So these are only little sample balls, but you see here 2 tightly wound little balls. They'll put them in their hand, bring the ends through, and ply from the 2 balls. Now, I would much rather ply from a 2-strand ball, so that's what I tend to do when I ply my cotton. But for the authentic experience, you would use the 2 separate balls and hold them in your hand as you ply. What I really like about the Akha is that I can spin very, very fine. This skein is actually a 4-ply of a yak angora blend, which is why it has that beautiful halo. And if I take it and show you, untwirl it, you can see each of those strands are so very, very fine. And it was because of that support stage with the Akha that I could make them that fine. And then I wound a 4-strand ball to do the plying for this yarn.